Hello and a very warm welcome to another edition of Channels Beam. I am Victor Matthias. Now, over the past weeks, President Muhammadu Buhari's administration has come under some form of criticism from those who had hitherto supported the president. Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka, former running mate of the president during the 2011 presidential elections, Pastor Tunde Bakre, and former President Olusegun Obasanjo, amongst others. And while some have argued that the open condemnation is timely, some believe that this could have been done in private, and that will be our focus on the program today. But let us see what made the social cyberspace bubble in the past week.
It has been 16 years since a deadly explosion in the Ikeja military cantonment resulted in the death and displacement of many. A memorial service was held in honor of the dead, while a plea was made for the quick release of compensation packages for the living. The former secretary to the government of the Federation made the headlines after he was quizzed by the EFCC over allegations of fraud following his indictment by a panel set up to probe allegations of corruption against him.
Well, there you go. Those were the trends in the past week, but now joining us to look at this issue. First, we have Dr. Olumiwa Amao. He is a political scientist. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
It's good to be here, Victor.
Of course.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And then we have on the Google Plus Hangout, we have Caro Orobani, who joins us from London. Caro is a public affairs analyst. Thanks for joining us on the program. Thanks for having me. And we also have Dr. Dikpo Awojide, who is a lecturer in the UK as well. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for inviting me, Victor.
You're welcome. Well, let me just come back to you, Molimuya, to start this conversation for us. I mean, you saw the letter former President Obasanjo wrote to the incumbent president, and of course, you saw the reply from the presidency. What do you make of the situation?
Well, I think that it was a very carefully worded reply. If you ask me, some of the few issues the former president raised were answered. The larger part of it was politically crafted, and I would argue that it was a diversionary reply, which swayed people off from the main issues that the former president made hue and cry about. For example, he talked about nepotism in the government of President Muhammadu Buhari. He talked about the fact that his anti-corruption crusade is a bit one-sided. He talked about the fact that the president is not fully in control of his own government. He talked about minors, reinstatement, and all that. When we saw the Minister for Information response, he didn't address those issues. Rather, he went into some statistics, ruling out what achievements the government has made in terms of the economy, in terms of infrastructure, the progress and all that, not specifically directed to the response of the former president. So the very topical issues about minors reinstatement, the herdsmen crisis, for example, his manner of appointment and all that were stylishly avoided.
All right, let me just hold you there for a bit. Let me come back to you, Dikpo. You just heard Dr. Olumuyiwa, talking about the response now of the presidency, but then he made mention of some of the things that the former president raised that were not actually addressed in the response of the federal government. What do you make of that situation? Do you think the federal government didn't respond?
Yeah, I think I do agree with Dr. Amal that Lai Mohammed's response was a bit, had very, very political undertones in that answered or provided responses to what he wanted people to focus on, and ignored some of the very important points that were raised by the president and by the former president. Olusegun Obasanjo, former president of Nigeria, did speak about nepotism. He spoke about Buhari, the current president, passing buck and blaming other people, blaming the previous administration. He spoke about, poor economic management. He spoke about, corruption, especially around President Buhari. I mean, those who work directly and those who are.
All right, so I mean, it seems that you made mention of nepotism, and he also made mention of nepotism himself. So if you're hampering on that, or if you're hammering on that, can you give us examples?
Yeah, so what I was going to say earlier was I would have expected that the minister who responded to former President Obasanjo should have responded to all the major claims and and points raised by former President Olusegun Obasanjo in his letter. I mean, recently there was an appointment of the head of the NIA, and quite a lot of people have actually criticized that appointment because the person who was appointed as the Director General of the NIA was said to have failed his promotion exam on two different occasions, and he had to be eased out of service, so he retired voluntarily because he was going to be sacked. And for them to have brought back that same person who was an assistant director to come and head such an agency, it means that deputy directors and directors who were in that agency, who some of them might have been competent to have become, the boss in that organization, they would have to leave because someone who is their junior is now or has now been appointed as the head of the NIA. And some of the appointments as well, since 2015. I mean, I look at the appointment of the Minister of Education, I look at the appointment of the Minister of Youth and Sport Development, they are not competent. So it's not just the case of nepotism. I mean, a lot of
I mean, a lot of people would a lot of people, Dr. Awojide, a lot of people will disagree on their competence. I mean, so to speak now, because I think the presidency did a bit of research, or a lot of research, extensive research, before appointing them and pegging them in those ministries. But I'll come back to you again in a bit.